All right. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for today's alumni panel, which we have people representing both the College of Arts and Sciences and the Maxwell School at Syracuse today. Not a Syracuse-wide panel, but certainly a good sampling of people who attended Arts and Sciences and or Maxwell during their time at Syracuse. I'm Rachel Skipper. If you haven't met me already, I'm our Associate Director of Undergraduate and Graduate Recruitment in the College of Arts and Sciences and the Maxwell School. And I'm just here as the MC today. I'm not going to be talking a lot at all. Which is good for all of you who have spent hours with me on Zoom already at this point. We do have a panel of 4 young alumni, and this is by design. You can always look to the Joe Bidens of the world to learn what people did in decades of time after the university, which is impressive work. But I also want to see what our alumni are doing after graduation. So I anticipate that that might be interesting to you all. It also helps that for them, Syracuse is still very fresh in their minds. And a lot of the experiences that they had at Syracuse would be applicable to you, right? So this is not what career services was doing 30 years ago. It's what they've been doing in recent years. So all of their experiences should apply to you all as well. I will let our alumni introduce themselves, and maybe we can just start in order of the screen with Joash.
Hi, my name is Joash Ford. I am a 2015 graduate from the Maxwell School, and also at the time it was Arts and Sciences. Really happy to be here. I'm a public affairs officer with the United States Navy. Previously, I was a White House intern, worked at the U.S. mission to the UN, as well as then law school and a consulting firm before heading over and putting the uniform on. Happy to be here with y'all.
And Alexis, go right ahead.
Hi, I'm Alexis. So I just graduated last year, but I'm still in Syracuse. I'm doing graduate school in forensic science with a concentration in medical legal death investigation. And I'm currently an intern at the Onondaga County Medical Examiner's Office. And it's really great to be here.
Thanks, Alexis. Laura, up next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Singer. I graduated in 2016, also studied political science, and I am currently an attorney at Jones Day.
And last but not least, Caitlin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Caitlin Meneggio-Stahl. I graduated in 2019, majored in international relations and neuroscience. After graduating, I went and got my graduate degree at Columbia University School of International Public Affairs. And since graduating from there, I've been with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development as a management analyst in New York City.
So like I said, impressive people. And it's cool to see that they're doing these really great things right after graduation or within a few years after graduation. So I hope that's encouraging and inspiring to all of you, that you could be sitting in all of these people's shoes or one of these people's shoes with just a few years of experience following the university, or in Alexis's case, immediately after. Alexis is a very recent grad. So again, I encourage you to ask our alumni questions as we go through the session today. I do have some questions planned for them, and I'll be pitching them some questions just to take the heat off of those of you in the audience, but that doesn't mean that I want to dominate the questions during this session. So please use the chat as we go through the session to let us know what your questions are. If they're on topic as we're kind of going through my questions, then we'll just do those right away. If they are kind of a diversion from what we're talking about, then that's great. Still don't hesitate to share. I want to know what you're thinking. And it's fine to share with me privately. If you're a little intimidated to share a question, I can share it for you. But do share your questions as we go, and we will start with mine until I see some coming in from you in the audience. So starting off, I want to know more about your current position, which our alumni just shared, and your favorite thing about your job, or your favorite thing about the work that you're doing now. Maybe we can go in the reverse order and start with Caitlin this time.
Yeah. So I started in my position as an intern and was converted to a full-time position. So I got 2 kind of different perspectives, but one thing that was consistent across those 2 positions is the support that was given to me. The people that I work with care so much about supporting people who are new, and they care so much about our mission, which is to provide safe, secure, sanitary housing for all. So I think that just the support and then the passion that my colleagues feel for the work that we do is my favorite thing.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Alexis, do you want to go next?
Sure. So I'm currently just an intern. So I work in the medical examiner's office. So I mainly work in the autopsy room, so I get to actually see what goes on in cases in Syracuse and in the around like surrounding counties. So I get to like walk through and speak with the medical examiners and see what happened to each individual. One thing that I've recently been able to do, and I think it's like one of my favorite things now, is going on scene. So I had the opportunity to be able to go onto crime scenes and speak with police, first responders, and kind of get to know like the whole everything that's happened to someone when they're found on a crime scene. So I think that's really cool.
Awesome. I'll have some questions for you in a minute about how you got to a place to be so excited to be there, which I know is a process. I was talking to a forensic science student just last week about that. So we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. Laura, do you want to share?
Yeah, so I actually just hit my 6-month mark at my firm. I've known I've wanted to be a lawyer for a very long time, and it's cool that every day is different. Any day that starts with a blank calendar means it's going to get full pretty quickly, and I get to write different things. I get to talk to different people. I get to work with all different kinds of communities. Pro bono is volunteer lawyer work, and I have the opportunity to do a lot of pro bono that I care about. So it's cool that I get to support our corporate clients, but also get to focus on areas that I'm passionate about as well.
Awesome. Thank you. And Joash, last but not least.
Sure thing, Rachel. I graduated 8 years ago, but I've been active duty for a year. What I love is how strong Syracuse's relationship is to the Navy. Because of how high quality it is, we're actually under contract with Syracuse to have different people trained in communications at Syracuse. And that strong connection is just something that I absolutely love, because I've been a civilian for most of my life, and just being able to bleed that orange pride while in uniform is pretty cool.
Well, that's a cool fact. I didn't know that. So that's really interesting. And yes, nice to have your kind of alumni feeling close to you, even as you go through such a dramatic, what I imagine must be a dramatic change in your work life and probably in your personal life as well. So thank you all for sharing. My next question is, how did you know that this was the right path? If you're not convinced yet, that's okay. Right? We're all changing, we're all growing in our careers, and I hope that never changes for any of us. But what made this career choice that you made recently in the job and career that you're currently working toward the right one? Laura, do you want to start? I know you said you wanted to do this for a long time, so maybe you could say what the inception of that was and how that kind of solidified during your time at college.
Yeah, so I grew up in the foster care system, and there's something known as the foster care to prison pipeline, which mirrors the school to prison pipeline. Essentially, kids don't graduate college or even have the opportunity to go to college, and that really frustrated me. So while I was at Syracuse, I was actually connected with an organization called Teach for America, and I worked as a teacher for 2 years. Where I got to see what was happening in the classrooms and kind of understood what the issues of why kids were having these same experiences that I was in foster care in the classroom. And following my teaching career, I knew that I wanted to transition to be a lawyer, because I think that the law is a good way to advocate and make change. And now in my legal career, I actually serve as a guardian ad litem, which is a lawyer for children who are in foster care. And so being able to use my personal experience and my desire to change the foster care system in my career is really important. And something that you'll learn about when you go to college is finding your why, and finding your passion for what you do, and getting to know that I have the opportunity to change the foster care system in some kind of way is very important to me. And I'm thankful that I have a career that lets me do that.
Really inspiring work. Thank you for sharing that. Caitlin, do you want to go next? And then we'll go to Alexis and then back to Joash.
Yeah, so I went into college thinking that I wanted to be a doctor because I really wanted to help people. I was interested in the biomedical sciences and thought, okay, well, the only way I can help people is to be a doctor. Turns out there are other ways to help people and to do really important work. I took a whole bunch of political science classes. That was one of my minors, government studies. And then, like I mentioned, I ended up going to school for public affairs and realized that there are so many options and routes that allow you to help others. And during my time at Syracuse, I took a couple of policy classes as well and realized, oh, I want to kind of year into policy, and it turned out that HUD and their internship program was waiting for me right at the time when I figured out that that's what I wanted to do.
So kind of going off of that, I came into Syracuse kind of similar to Caitlin. I wanted to become a doctor. I also just had, because I liked watching crime shows a lot, that's kind of what led me to go into forensic science. So I was able to pair an integrated learning major, which is forensic science, with biology. And because of the classes that I took for that major, I got really interested in forensic science. I found that as a way of, in a way, helping other people. So with death investigation, I'm allowed to provide closure to families, speak with families, and I think that's like super important. And I find that really valuable. So that's kind of what led me to go into this career path specifically.
And building on that, both Caitlin and Alexis and myself, we all started pre-med from what it sounds like. And like Laura, I went to law school as well. So what unites the sort of things in my life and career that Syracuse enabled and encouraged every step of the way was taking risks and making it very clear that our job isn't so much to know everything about everything, but trusting enough in ourselves and reaching out to the people around us. And the beautiful thing I think with Syracuse is you can never stretch your arm too far before you reach another Syracuse grad willing to support you.
I think that's definitely true. And I hope you're not all getting the message of Syracuse where dreams of being a doctor go to die, because that is not the case. I just think that it happens to a lot of students that they see these really popular careers. And of course, their parents are thrilled, right? When they hear, you know, you want to be a doctor and you're going to go to Syracuse, right? But I think what's powerful going to a school like Syracuse, and any of our alumni can tell you this, is the access to a bunch of different career paths and courses and ideologies even that you may not have experienced. So maybe keep an open mind with the career that you want to pursue now. It's likely that it's going to change. And hopefully Syracuse, like it has for our alumni in the room, will support you in finding something that might work even better than what you're currently thinking of. But that's funny that we had 3 pre-meds in the room that did no such thing. That's actually very common for students to change their mind. So don't stick too closely to that narrow view that you might have now. Okay, I would like to know what skills from your time at the university are most useful in your work now. Alexis, this is probably very top of mind for you since you're still so close to the field that you started in and pursuing your work at Syracuse. Do you want to kick this one off, and then we can just go with whoever feels comfortable chiming in next after that?
Yeah, sure. So specifically in forensics, most of my professors are part-time professors and full-time in the forensics office. So they work in the crime lab and they basically work on cases all day. So a lot of things that we did in class were really hands-on, really like mock scene style and like lab work. It really helps us prepare for the forensics field, which is really great. We've done a lot of mock trials, so they'll put us in front of like a whole class and they'll be just kind of allowing us to testify on like a case that we did. Other ways, like we do a crime scene, so we'll set up like on campus and our professor would set up a really cool like crime scene and we kind of just have to like figure it out and photograph and use all the techniques that we learned in class about that. And so I am currently using a lot of those skills in work right now, just because I get to go on scene and I get to basically see it all in real life and exactly kind of how they taught us in class. So that's kind of something that's really great right now.
I can jump in next. I have 2 skills. So the first one is time management. That was a skill that I thought I possessed before I got to Syracuse. And then it turns out I actually learned everything I know about time management in the 4 years I was there. I was super busy. I was part of extracurricular activities. I was taking like 19, 20 credits every single semester. So I was busy. Syracuse, the course load, if you want it to be, can be heavy. And you can also be involved in tons of activities. So you learn very quickly, okay, I need to manage my time if I want to do all of these things that I want to do. And that is super helpful in my current position, because working for the government is like 24/7. Sometimes things are busy, especially at the end of the fiscal year when you have really tight deadlines. So I really appreciate learning those time management skills. And second, how to use my resources, especially professors, Office of Career Services. I was terrified to talk to professors. I was like, these people do not want to talk to me. I'm just a student and they're, so experienced. That might be true, but they're there to help you. They're there to teach. That's why they signed up for these jobs. They're not just going to see you and say, get away from me. It'll never happen. So I'm happy I did that. It helped me in my current position talk to high level leadership at headquarters, build relationships with them, to the point where they see my name, they see my face, and they know who I am. So my time at Syracuse really helped with that.
Going off the time management piece, getting involved, I think you learn your material in the classroom, but the best way to learn about life is by exposing yourself to different organizations and groups on campus, and there's so many to get involved with. And college is really special in the sense that by the time you're a senior, outside of your classes, the school is largely run by leaders, senior leaders in your organization. And so being able to talk to different people, learning how to recruit and plan events and do all of these things, in addition to the time management, just developing and finding out what you're interested in and how you lead and how you can serve others, whether that be being the president of an organization, or maybe you're really good at planning events or fundraising, and all of these skills are applicable both in your life after college and in your career. And college is the perfect way to get to explore those different places.
I'd say for me, the biggest thing I took from Syracuse was friends who are willing to get on a plane, a train, a bus, a car, or run down the street to be there for you when you need them. In the time I was there and since, from studying abroad, the people I studied abroad with are my closest friends today. And I mean, there's someone in my house right now from Syracuse when we 10 years ago studied abroad. And last week, another friend visited me, just completely out of the strength of, you meet really quality people, and that's not something you're going to meet everywhere. And just knowing I don't need to search the rest of the world to find another version of you. I can simply sort of build here. And these same people help me when I need professional advice, or in a contract negotiation or salary negotiation. They're going through it as well. They're advancing in their careers, but ultimately we're able to support each other because we really do care for each other.
I love that. Maybe next time we'll do a session like Joash and Company, and you can hear about like networks of friends that happened around our campus, and especially in arts and sciences in Maxwell. I think, people say this a lot. The person who was in my wedding, right? I worked a job with when I was in college, right? And it really does happen. So thanks, Joash, for sharing another story about that and making it feel real, that you're going to meet people that become even closer to you than the friends that you may have now. It's hard to believe, but it does happen. I'm going to let Joash kick this one off to start us on mentors that you had in college. And that doesn't have to be professors. For a lot of people it is, but whether these are friends, advisors, mentors, people you met through scholarship programs, etc., who has stayed with you and who served as important advice then and now?
That's such a great question. And so many of my mentors in life are Syracuse alum. When I was making the decision and looking into joining the armed services, a former Secretary of the Navy is university professor at the Maxwell School, and he was just more than happy to talk and mentor, and currently to this day still does. I transferred to Syracuse, and the friend who lived next door to me, we've been friends since for the last 10 years. When I decided to run for office, she helped me run the campaign, and the entire network, the Syracuse family, we just picked the phone up and were able to get right after it. So mentorship is the lifeblood of Syracuse. We take pride. And for me, if I see Syracuse from 10 miles out, I've got my eyes on it. How can I help? How can I be there?
Laura, do you want to go next?
So I was part of the honors program, and I also did the distinction program, which is a senior capstone where you write an extensive research paper. And I had, and it's cool because you get to work with two professors very intimately on a research topic of your choice. And so getting to work with them and being able to come up with a substantive writing piece was incredibly daunting. I'm sure like you guys just being in high school hearing this is like super overwhelming. I was overwhelmed going into my senior year. But then walking me through the process and also getting to build a relationship in addition to just our professional relationship, getting to know them on a personal level was really special and really, really unique. I don't think in high school you really get to have close relationships with your teachers in the way that you get to in college. And they continue to be my mentors. They helped get me into law school. They wrote all of my letters of recommendation. And the piece that I came up with to this day, I was interviewing for jobs last year and people still ask me about the piece that I produced. So.
I'll jump in. I have two mentors that were professors during my senior year, Dr. Timur Hammond of the geography department and Dr. Robert Terrell of the history department. Dr. Hammond was essentially my capstone advisor for the international relations capstone that I had to write. He grabbed me by the hand and dragged me through that project because like Laura just mentioned, it can be extremely daunting, especially when you have so many things going on, you're about to graduate, you want to hang out with your friends are moving across the country. So he was extremely helpful in building my confidence so that I could write that paper. And then Dr. Terrell helped me with my grad school applications and, talked through all the ideas I had. And that was something that he offered to all of his students. And I think I was one of a handful that took him up on that. And I'm super, super happy that I did that. The two of them wrote letters of recommendation for me for grad school, for scholarships, grants, all sorts of things. And I actually ended up writing letters of recommendation for them for Maxwell and University Teaching Awards that are given out.
Going off of Laura and Caitlin, my current mentors are most of my professors. I've known them just because I went to undergrad here at Syracuse. I did research with them. I also did the distinction program. So I had to sit one-on-one and like do my own research project, dedicate a lot of hours to their lab, which was really cool. And then specifically in forensic science, since most of them are working professionals, it's really great to get their advice and learn about just what they do in their daily lives and what their jobs are like. And for example, this internship, I was able to get it because I took a class with Chief Investigator Brian Arrett. So he's the Chief Investigator at the Onondaga County Medical Examiner's Office. And so he kind of guided me through just the application process, what to be expected when I'm there, what kind of things that I might see, just like mentally preparing me, emotionally preparing me. He's also just helped me look for jobs. I'm from California, so I'm looking at jobs right now back on the West Coast. So he's been really active in helping me kind of look through those, giving me ideas of like who to contact and like just being a great resource to me. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing that. And I like that we did see some range here in the differences in the way people find mentorship and use mentorship down the road. I always laugh, and I've told the story a couple of times, but when I learned that this was a real thing, the kind of lifelong mentorship that happens was when he had to have been reaching 70, between 60 and 70 years old, comes into my office in admissions where advising used to be, and was looking for his advisor because he had been working on his field for so long and he wanted to nail down his PhD. And he was saying like, I just want this degree. And I got such good advice when I was here, and he'd been working locally in Syracuse at the Upstate Medical University Hospital, and was like, I want to talk to my advisor. Like, who's my advisor? And I just thought that was awesome, right? And he did get his PhD. So that was a pretty cool story. And hopefully in 30, 40 years, you all in the room still feel comfortable coming back home to Syracuse to get some advice if you need it. And it sounds like you're already doing that. So thanks for sharing those stories. Okay, this is my last question, and then I'm going to turn it over to the audience. We already have one question in the chat, and I've received a couple private messages, but if you have questions for our group after learning a little bit more about them thus far, please send them into the chat now, and I'll help make sure they get answered. But our next question is going to be, if you had to do college all over again, what would you do differently? Are there things that you would change about your time at the university? And maybe we could start with Caitlin this time. It's been a while since you've gone first.
Yeah. You had kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, Rachel, but I would not panic after changing my major. I changed my major 4 times, and it got to the point where my advisor was like, come on, make up your mind, what's going on? And of course they did it in a loving way, but I wouldn't have, said, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. That's what college is for. You figure out what you want to do, what your interests are. You don't have to have everything like nailed down. Things can change after college. Use the time to take classes that you're interested in. If there's something that you think you might be interested in, take just one class and see what happens. So that's what I would do differently.
I can kind of go off of that. If I had to do something or undergrad differently, I probably would want to immerse myself in different organizations earlier on in college. I started joining a lot more professional organizations, or like things that could help me in the long run, kind of towards the end of college, so my junior and senior year. I kind of had in mind that I wanted to do pre-med. I had a pre-med advisor and everything, but I really got a lot of advice and just experience when I joined a pre-med fraternity on campus. So I really got to hear what other people were going through and kind of relate to them. And I thought that would be really helpful if I started that earlier on and kind of met more like-minded people in my career earlier on, just so I could maybe have a better idea of what I really wanted to do in the future. And kind of going off of Caitlin, like, don't stress about changing your major. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do until towards the end of my senior year. So it's okay to take your time, and it's all about like learning and taking different experiences to kind of have an idea of what you want to do.
I actually don't think I would change anything. I guess my like high school self would say visit the campus. I had actually never visited a college before move-in day. I was a first generation college student and did not understand like that college actually means that you uproot everything and start over. And that was so overwhelming to me. And I think if I had visited a campus of any college, I would have just not gone to school, which wasn't an option. And so when I moved in, I was torn between 2 schools, and I decided to pick Syracuse because I was looking for I wanted a college life. I wanted the option to go out. I wanted to have sports. I wanted Greek life. I wanted outstanding professors. I wanted college. And when I think of Syracuse, I think of college, especially having gone to law school. I really got to have everything that I needed out of college, so that when I was ready to go to law school, I was mature and ready to focus, because professional schools, whether it be law school, med school, business school, all of that is just like sitting down and hitting the books. And I did not want that to be my college experience. I wanted a really robust experience. But all this to say that on move-in day, I had never visited the campus, and everyone knew the Hall of Languages. And I was like, that building's pretty nice. But there was never a day that I regretted picking Syracuse. I'm in love with the university. And while I don't think that my experience was perfect, and I'm sure I had some slip-ups along the way, I think looking at my overall experience, there's not anything I would change because it led me to where I'm supposed to be.
Laura, I think building on that, I'm gonna say I love my time at Syracuse, but I think there are 2 things I'd change. I'd find my tribe earlier. I would take full advantage, and I didn't when I was there. And when I first got to Syracuse, it definitely impacted my time. I was really in class and home, and in class and home, and I was away, and it was cold, and that can be miserable if you're doing it by yourself. It's so about your performance, but it's also about your well-being. And Syracuse is a place where everybody belongs. And there is someone at Syracuse for everybody under the sun. And just taking the risk and having the courage to step out and to speak up and to say, hi, I'm here. Anybody want to be my friend? I'm joking in the language I'm using, but 100% sincere in the message there. And the second thing, I would swing for the fences harder. Syracuse is a place where you can literally bippity boppity boo yourself into your future. And if that's an executive in music or a world-class doctor or an Olympian, right? Like I personally know someone from a world-class record executive, an Olympian, and doctors doing incredible things, all from Syracuse. And there's nothing you could point to under the sun that someone at Syracuse isn't already doing and willing to help you with. So that belief in yourself and finding that tribe.
I think that's so true, Joash. A lot of times when I see our students doing what they're doing, I think back to when I was in college and think the same thing. Like you should have milked that experience, right? There's no other time in your life, students, when opportunities are going to be shoved in your face and you're going to be told this would be really good for you, do this, like ad nauseum, right? It's almost overwhelming the amount of times that happens at Syracuse. And I wish the same thing, that I would have been bolder in doing that. And so I hope all of you are hearing this and just thinking like, okay, as soon as I get to campus, what can I do? Who can I meet? Because you only get 4 years, and it sounds wild to all of you now, but think about how fast your 4 years in high school went, right? You're going to be even busier in colleges, and it's going to go even faster. So you really do want to start from day one, taking advantage of these things. I thought I had only that final question, but then I remembered I added this one. Panelists, if you want to talk directly to the audience about what do you recommend people take advantage of to maximize their success in the future? Are there specific resources at the university, for example, that you are glad that you used or wish you had used? Specific activities you wish you would have done or did do that you found to be really impactful? And Alexis, I'm going to pitch this to you first because someone asked me in the chat what specifically student organizations you would recommend for forensic science students. So maybe you could talk to the forensic science minded people in the group and then broaden if you have broader advice. But just, is there something specific that you think was really impactful that you would recommend our students do?
Yeah, so there actually is a current undergraduate forensic science student association club on campus. So they host a lot of speakers. A lot of people are connected with working professionals and other people in the forensics field. So they always have a lot of speakers going on. They have a lot of different activities and kind of bonding events that people do on campus. So those are really great. They also do some mock scenes, which are really fun. And then to broaden it out a little bit, so I took advantage of the Career Center a lot. So I used a lot of the resume workshops and what else? I got help with like interviews and things like that. And then just like a Syracuse University in general, I would recommend everyone to study abroad. I feel like that made my experience at Syracuse just like more well-rounded. I got to experience like traveling with other students and speaking with other majors and things like that. But yeah, I think those are all really great things to do.
Anyone who wants to go next can share. Thanks, Caitlin.
Yeah, I'll jump in. For a specific student organization targeted directly at first-year students, if you're into theater, or even if you're not into theater, I would highly recommend First-Year Players. Wonderful. You have to just be, first-year student or transfer student. No theater experience required, but it's a lot of fun. And it's a really wonderful environment to foster friendships, grow as a person, and build a huge community on campus. I will also echo Alexis in saying study abroad. I'm not sure if anyone on this call is going to be doing the discovery program, but I did that. You go abroad your first semester of college. Fantastic. And after that, I went abroad 3 more times. So I highly recommend it. You'll make wonderful connections with the professors, overseas, and make wonderful friends who will remain your friends for the rest of your life. Like Joash mentioned, friends that you met when you first got there, still my best friends today. So
I'm going to jump right on that and echo it. My best friends in life, if they're not from study abroad, they're from Maxwell in DC. And that the opportunity is unparalleled. Syracuse, I wasn't born an African princess, but Syracuse treats me like it just gave me the world. And I studied in London undergrad, and I went back to law school in London. That would build on my second piece of advice was, and let's study what you love and explain that to your parents later. They're gonna say this will make you money, that will do this, that will do that. We had the managing director of Goldman Sachs come into the history department and say, I'd rather a history major who understands how to use the English language, who understands how to make connections between different things, than somebody who studied finance and absolutely hates it. And I would recommend you intern over the summer. Even if it doesn't feel like this is leading to money, don't worry about the money. If you choose Syracuse and people like everyone on this call will see to it that you're never struggling by the side of the road without a ride home. And then my last piece of advice is that Office of Multicultural Advancement and so many other resources that will help point you in the direction of people, places, and things you can find, and make sure your time at Syracuse is a great one.
I am also going to throw out the honors program. You can apply at the end of your freshman year if you aren't accepted coming out of college. And I did not understand, or sorry, if you're not accepted going into college, I did not understand the honors program. I think a lot of you guys are familiar with honors and AP classes in high school. And so I thought that it was just like more challenging classes and more onerous papers. But really the honors program exposes you to a ton of really cool classes. I took a class where I got to go to Syracuse City every week and learn different parts of the city. I took a class where I got to do a presentation on the history of tattoos and study different art, and was required to see different concerts and performances every week. So it's really about breadth of diversifying your college experience. So I would say that if you're looking for really unique classes and fun classes, Syracuse offers them throughout, but I think the honors program is really special and definitely something that you should explore, and then being able to talk about that in your career can absolutely help you.
Absolutely. Thank you all for sharing. I tried to do my best at sharing links to everything that our panelists, like typing furiously, were mentioning in the chat. So if you want to read more about those resources, every single thing they mentioned is still available to you on campus now. So none of these things have gone away since our alumni graduated. You can access all of these resources. If you go to the honors page after hearing Laura's pitch and panic because you see that the deadline to apply was April 15th, that's okay. You can still apply to join honors after you're a freshman on campus. So it's not something you have to have done now. If you applied to honors and found out yesterday, which is when we released decisions, that you were not accepted to honors, again, you can apply again once you're on campus, and you'll be evaluated based on your college experience. So totally fresh start, and you can apply for honors once you're on campus. But thank you all. Those are great resources. And I'm glad that they're all things that are still around on campus. Okay, so audience members, I want to hear what your questions are. I've had a few great questions in the audience already that were sent to me, so I'll start with those, but that's not to step on anybody who is thinking about asking a question. So please send them in the chat if you have more questions. Some of these questions were directed to specific panelists, so when that's the case, I'm just going to ask that panelist. Some of them anyone can answer, and if that's the case, I think we should just keep doing a roundtable type style. Joash, I'll start with you. Someone wants to know, how did you break out of your shell? They asked that right after we switched from you talking like, what did you do? Because I think it's scary, right? I'm sure you can understand how this person might be feeling. Like, how did you break that mold? What made it comfortable for you to do that? Or if it wasn't uncomfortable, what made it bearable?
That's such a great question. And when I got to Syracuse, the chancellor at the time, Nancy Cantor, she gave a speech welcoming everybody who was new. And she said, and for the life of me, forgive me, I don't remember what the word is, but I remember the definition. And she described in a class of 100 people, you feel that 99 other people have a better grasp of what's happening than you do. At the same time that all 99 people are looking that way about everyone else in the room. That is such a phenomenal, I think, definition of what happens when you get to Syracuse and anywhere you go that's new. My advice to that end would be to reach your hand out and be gracious, be a friend, and you'll get a friend. Be warm and loving. And so much about it is, we talk about books and we talk about studying. So much about college is about being human. And the more you're able to share that human part of yourself, I can promise you, no matter what you experience in high school, you're going to find that love at Syracuse. You're going to find that tribe of people who are like you. And if someone said something mean or nasty, you can bet your bottom dollar there's someone coming from around the corner to say, hey, that wasn't right. That's not fair. Or they might find you and pull you aside and say, how you feeling? Can we go to lunch? Can we go to dinner? Can I be there for you? And truly and genuinely just reminding yourself that there's nothing different or better than that anybody brings to the table than I do, and just taking care of yourself in that way. That's what I would say. Shout out to Chancellor Cantor.
Now I'm gonna have to figure out what that word is, because that's such a useful concept, and I totally agree with you. You're gonna think that everybody else has this down, and it's because they're pretending. No one is prepared, except for maybe boarding school students. I think they fare pretty well when they come on campus because they're ready. So maybe find some of those people. But in general, no one is ready for this change. No one has a roadmap for how to do this. Some people have more support than others, and they may be able to be a support for you. But there is that support on campus as well. So you don't have to come ready to go. You don't have to come knowing how to handle this. You don't have to come even knowing who to ask, but you do have to raise your hand sometimes. And I think that when you do that, you'll find a great community on campus. I have a question that was raised in the chat earlier that I want to go again roundtable and have everyone speak to. And I like this one because it's very realistic. The best and worst part of your field or working in your field. I think it's great to talk about, what problems are you facing and how are you facing those? So this one may be tricky, but hopefully you all saw it in the chat and had some time to think about it. Alexis, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'm still kind of thinking about it, but so far I would say the best part is being able to provide some sort of like positive impact on my community. With this job, I hope to be able to like give closure to families, like I said before, help others in like a way that may be difficult for some other people to help with. I think in a way, the worst part could also be just that like speaking and like being emotional and being really empathetic and like helpful, or not helpful. I can't really think of the word, but just kind of like guiding families through like a tough time and a process like what they may be going through. That is pretty difficult. But it's also very rewarding when you're able to give them closure and to help them out. So I think that's something that I was really ingrained with throughout the courses that I've taken at Syracuse. And so that's something that I've really been able to apply to my career so far.
Awesome. Thank you. Laura, Caitlin, do you want to add to this?
Sure. So something that you've probably heard of before, or you will, is imposter syndrome and feeling like you are not good enough to be in the space that you are. And so where I work, I'm surrounded by absolutely brilliant attorneys. And there are definitely times where they say things that I could never even think of and don't even understand how they got to that point. And it's overwhelming because they also hired me and I don't think that way. And so I feel like I don't belong there. So that can be incredibly overwhelming and something that I'm sure all of us have faced at one point or another. But the way that I look on this, and I used to tell this to my law school when I was a mentor in law school, is that that's also a really cool opportunity to learn. And so taking that humility and just saying like, okay, you know what? I don't think like them, but I can learn from them, and getting that opportunity to learn from people. You're going to be exposed to so many people at Syracuse who have had tons of different experiences and a worldview that you couldn't imagine. And actually on my convocation day, it wasn't Nancy, maybe it was Cantor, I don't know who it was. But they said that if you are only friends with people who think like you are in the wrong place. And I think Syracuse is a perfect way to expose yourself and be challenged by your peers and learn how to think differently and explore that, so that you don't feel like you're not good enough, but you are enhanced by the people that you're surrounded with.
Yeah, I will echo what both Alexis and Laura said. I think the best part of my field, and specifically my job, is being able to make a difference in my community. Good example of that is I was an underwriter on an application for a senior Section 8 property in my hometown in upstate New York. So I am directly responsible for keeping that property affordable for my neighbors, essentially, the people I grew up with, which is extremely rewarding. I think there are only a handful of careers where you can say that you were directly involved in improving people's lives like that. Worst part, like Laura said, the imposter syndrome. You have to remember, like she said, you were also hired for a reason. You're there for a reason. Take every day as an opportunity to learn. There are people who want to teach you, so be open to that, and be willing to reach out when you have questions. There are a lot of people who are going to really trust you and count on you in your career, and I definitely see that every day. So just know that even though you're feeling a little iffy about the things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, maybe you don't know it, you don't have to be an expert. In time, you'll get better and you'll learn things. Just be open and know when to ask questions and who to ask those questions to.
All really great advice. And I hope the audience that you feel comfortable with your imposter syndrome now that you see the impressive people on the screen, and know that they all feel that too. That's not something that really goes away, I don't think. But I hope that you can just learn from them and take some of these messages with you when you land on campus and you feel that feeling. It's just time to be who you want to be. And college is one of the few times you just get to start fresh and be that person. So I hope that you all take that time. I did get one more directed question also for you, Caitlin, coming to the chat a little bit late after you're talking about study abroad. And I think someone was a little shocked about the number of trips that you took. Can you talk about why and how you were able to fit in that many trips in your 4 years?
Yes, I would love to. So my first study abroad, like I mentioned, was through the Discovery Program, which is for, I think, just arts and sciences students who can go abroad their very first semester. You can go to Italy, France, or Spain, I think. I went to Italy. I didn't really know what I was signing up for. Like Laura, I was a first generation college student. So I was just like, yeah, I guess I don't really know what this means. And it turned out to be the greatest experience of my life. So when I got back to campus, everyone else had been there for a semester already. And I was thinking to myself, how quickly can I go overseas again? So I went back over the summer. I went to France. And while I was there, I took classes on human and civil rights through the Strasbourg Center. And then I was also with the Council of Europe. Loved that so much that I decided to go back to Italy fall of my junior year, and I served as a mentor to the Discovery students that were there that semester. And then naturally, I was like, oh my gosh, that was so much fun. Where can I go next? And so the following summer, right before my senior year, I went to Belgium and I interned with the Council of Europe Liaison Office to the European Union. This was all through Syracuse. Syracuse paid for all of it, which I'm extremely grateful for. So yeah, it was just, learning so much, being exposed to new things, ideas, places, people that I never even dreamed that I would be able to experience. I would highly recommend studying abroad, even if you just go for a summer. I know sometimes people can't fit it in during a full semester. If you can, wonderful. But if you can't, even a summer is going to have the same impact on you. Hope that answers your question.
Awesome. Thank you for responding. And yes, there are plenty of ways that you can go abroad at Syracuse. I do think that Caitlin's point about cost is what drives the number of students who go abroad at Syracuse so high. So we do see about half of our students studying abroad, which is unheard of in statistics about students abroad in college. It's expensive, can be difficult to fit it in, it's intimidating. And I think Syracuse does a lot to break down all of those barriers for our students. So if cost is a concern to you, if the fact that you've never traveled independently before is a concern to you, if the fact that you've never been on an international trip is a concern to you, all things that were a concern to me when I was a college student and I didn't go, I don't want that to happen to you. So if you want to go abroad, I did leave in the chat earlier the link to the Syracuse Abroad office, and they have counselors that will work with you and figure out the money and figure out the friends that might want to go with you on the trip and familiarize you with the location and find you an English speaking country to go to or whatever it is that you need. So I really don't want those things to be barriers to you. They certainly are not for many of our students on campus once you know what resources exist. Again, you might have to raise your hand, and I hope you do. So the study abroad is really popular on campus, and I'm glad we had some questions about it. Anna, thanks for asking a question. I was just about to say I don't have any more questions. So Anna's question will close us out today. She wants to know about the city of Syracuse itself. So Laura, I think you already mentioned having some, access to the city of Syracuse during your time at Syracuse. Do you want to start with this question? And then again, anyone who wants to chime in should about their experiences off campus.
Yeah, so Syracuse University, being in Syracuse, like people look up to the university and use it for a lot of resources, which is incredible just in terms of internships and opportunities that you wouldn't get at other universities, particularly in large cities when you're competing with other schools. It's nice that businesses and organizations in Syracuse really look to the university to get employees and give opportunities to students. One of the most impactful experiences that I had at Syracuse, in addition to my classes, was I was part of the Syracuse University Literacy Corps, where I got to go into Syracuse City schools once a week and tutor fourth grade students, which was really important to me. I think I was paid for it, but you can also do it on a volunteer basis as well. But it was a really cool experience to be able to be that liaison and show children in elementary schools that like I'm a successful college student and this is an option for you as well. Syracuse does a really good job at exposing Syracuse City students to the university, and there's a lot of opportunities for them to relate and come to campus and tour. I believe that Syracuse offers programs for high school students, underserved high school students to come and spend a week. But we really do care about the Syracuse community at large. And then I'm sure my co-panelists can talk more about the food scene and other things that are to do on a daily basis.
Totally, Laura. And Syracuse, that's such a great question, whoever asked it. And I think just to put it in scope, not only is the president of currently a Syracuse alum, but the mayor of the city of Syracuse, the congressperson representing that district, the governor of New York, and the president are all Syracuse alum currently today, right now. And it speaks to the fact that there is a really strong integration between the academic setting and the physical location in Syracuse. The weather can be tough sometimes, but the community is designed to work around that, to enhance your experience, to make sure that you're not stuck inside the entire year when it's snowing, right? And at the same time, if you feel like there's a concern for safety, Syracuse has made it its mission to take care of its 20,000+ students every year without fail. If you want to be integrated into the community, Syracuse makes it its mission to make the community available and open to you and help you safely navigate it as you're experiencing it for the first time. And then go out on your own if you feel empowered to do that as well. But again, you're never going to be in Syracuse without the support of both the community and the university.
I'll also jump in. There are so many different events and activities that happen in the city of Syracuse. So there's like ice skating in the winter that you can do downtown, I think at Clinton Square. There are all sorts of like cultural festivals. There's an Earth Day festival that happens probably happened this past weekend in Thorndon Park. It happens every single year. Tons of food events. There are tons of immigrant populations in the city of Syracuse. So there are constantly things going on. Restaurants, incredible restaurants. You'll probably hear a lot about Postabilities. That's like the #1 restaurant. I still get like their pasta and sauce shipped to me. And it's been 4 years since I graduated. So that's how impressionable and delicious it is. But there are things to do if you want to get involved. Like Laura mentioned, you could join an organization that will directly get you into the community, or you can go out and do it on your own. I was an intern with the Central New York chapter, the American Civil Liberties Union, which got me directly involved in issues in the city, specifically the I-81 issue, which is playing out in real time right now as they're trying to replace that highway system. So there are opportunities to get involved, whether it's directly through Syracuse or you seek them out on your own, whether it's professional opportunity, academic opportunity, or you're just doing something for fun. I've never felt unsafe in the city of Syracuse, but it is a city. So you of course, act as you would in any city. Just be cautious, be aware. But it's a really wonderful, welcoming place. And the people who grew up in Syracuse, live in Syracuse full time, want you to be involved, and they will do what they can to get you involved in the community.
Yeah, going off of that, I love Possibilities. It's like my favorite restaurant in Syracuse. But also there's a lot of different opportunities in Syracuse that students could get involved in. When I was a sophomore, I was volunteering at the hospital, which is just down the street from Syracuse campus. So a lot of pre-med students would do that. They give you as many hours as you really want, and you can just be there and get a lot of exposure to the healthcare field. Also with my internship, which is also just across the street from Upstate Hospital. So it's very close to campus, very accessible for Syracuse students. Also, if you're into like drama and theater, there's also Syracuse Stage, which is like a little farther from campus. A lot of students who are in the drama department can work with individuals who are in the theater program at the Syracuse Stage. So they're more like working professionals. And so a lot of students in theater could get exposure to that in that way too. And then also, if you are looking for things to do outside of Syracuse, there's something called Orange After Dark, which Syracuse offers. So they offer a way for you to get off of campus. They have like school buses, they take you to different events. In the winter, there's like snow tubing, which is super fun. A lot of students like to go to that. And then they take you to the mall. There's Destiny Mall, which is, I think, one of the biggest malls in the country, I want to say. But they do a lot of like movie premieres that they will take students to, which is really cool. And then there's just a bunch of different activities that you could do on the weekends with your friends, and it's through Syracuse. They bus you there. It's super safe and it's a lot of fun, and you could just go with your friends and have a good time.
Okay, so I just want to leave in the chat a couple of links for students that are really set mentally on connecting to the city that they're living in when they go to college, because I think that's something that you should all do. You don't go to college just to be part of a homogenous group, and Syracuse is not a homogenous group, but when you compare students at Syracuse University to people living in communities in the city of Syracuse that may not have access to the university, that's a different world, and one you should experience as a student who is sort of using the resources that the city has to offer. It should be a two-way street. So the Shaw Center is a great place to go if you're just wanting to get involved in the community in the city of Syracuse. Their whole goal is to give Syracuse students learning opportunities that are enhanced by working in the communities. So Spanish students should be speaking to the 8,000 Spanish speaking refugees that live in the city of Syracuse. And the Shaw Center is the one that's making those connections. The Citizenship and Civic Engagement major is also a program that requires community engagement. So not only do you find community partners, you You assess what they do by interning with them. You do a research project on a problem they have, and you present them with an action plan on how to solve that problem before you graduate. And it's all part of the curriculum in the major. So that's fantastic. A great resume builder. And again, another way that we are fostering that connection between students at the university and people living in the community in the city of Syracuse. So I'm glad that someone asked about that. I think it's really important that that bridge remains. And there are many ways you can access it, and then what the university will walk you through doing that. So with that, I know there may be a couple other questions in the chat, but I do want to respect our panelists' time. We are 2 minutes over, so I'm going to close the session now. I want to end by saying thank you to our fantastic panelists. You said more than I could ever say about the university in a session, and your experiences on campus and afterwards are so valuable for our students to hear about. So I'm so glad that you all joined me today. It was great to see all of you again, and Laura, to meet you for the first time, and I appreciate you all being here. Students, also, thank you for your time. I know it's a nauseating amount of Zoom sessions and college-related email that you're getting, so it's flattering to us that you wanted to spend some time on Zoom today, and I'm glad you did. Again, my name is Rachel Skipper, and I'm here to answer your questions if you have them in the future. I do want to leave my email in the chat quickly for those who may need to copy and paste. And if you need to get in touch with me, you can do that via email. If you want to talk to our panelists, just email me and I can pass your questions along to them if I can't answer them myself. So again, I appreciate you all being here. Go Orange, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you again soon.